G'day, I'm Paul. Recently we reviewed the Renault Captur and I remember it was just really fun to drive. I wasn't expecting it to be so engaging. Well, the Arkana is like a bigger version of the Captur. It sits on a longer wheelbase, it is longer in general, but it shares the same platform. So I'm hoping it'll be the same sort of smile-inducing performance behind the wheel. This one here is the top specification. It's called the Arkana RS Line, which means it gets that F1 treatment of the Captur that we recently tested. It's priced at just over $43,000, but if that's too expensive, the entire range kicks off at just under 36 grand. This competes with things like the Mazda CX-30, the Volkswagen T-Roc. It's that kind of thing, except this is like a coupe SUV style arrangement. Now, today we're going to do a detailed review of this car, so if you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this review, you can use the time codes on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon, because that will tell you every single time we publish a review on a fancy new car. Let's kick off with design. So you have 6 external colors to pick from. Orbit Blue is going to cost you $750 extra. So the RS line, it picks up F1 inspired design. So that means this whole bottom section down here has been restyled from the standard Arkana to give it the F1 inspired design. The Arkana is an interesting looking car. So up the front here, it sort of has a bit of a Koleos vibe to it with that headlight that wraps down there. The rest of it is kind of typical Renault, which is nice styling. Renault being a French brand, they really do focus on styling and making sure this thing looks good out on the road. So you've got those chrome highlights on the badge there and around the grille, piano black in the center, giant radar module down the bottom there, and they kind of look like aero things to push air through here down the bottom. So it is a very sort of trendy looking design. Over here you've got a set of full LED headlights with LED daytime running light and indicator. A little bit more aero on the side there, again F1 inspired. It spits out just on this other side here. 18-inch alloy wheels, so as part of the RS line you get this red stripe within the wheel there. It's quite a nice design, so it's got kind of like a graphite finish on the outside and then piano black on the inside there with that red stripe. Decent profile on that tyre too, 55 profile, so it should mean that it rides nicely, and that's all sitting on an 18-inch alloy wheel. This only has just under 200 millimeters of ground clearance, but it is front-wheel drive only, just like the Captur, so you're not going to be doing any off-road driving, but you do get stuff like this that make it look off-road capable. RS line badge here, signifying this is the F1 inspired model. Up the top here, you've got body coloured mirror with an indicator built into there. Oh, by the way, I asked on our Volvo XC60 review, what is this? Because we see this on a number of cars. Apparently it's a temperature sensor. So if that's correct, let me know in the comments section below. But very interesting little setup there. So you got a glass roof up the top here, privacy glass, and then this is the coupe SUV section. See how it sort of swoops down to look like a sedan, but then it's got SUV proportions. It is really quite an interesting design. Come around to the back. Now around the back here, you're going to find LED tail lights. You've got a high mount stoplight there, shark fin aerial, Arkana badge along here, Renault just there. Fake exhaust pipes down here and a little bit of cladding there as well. So let me know what you think about the design. Do you think it is a good looking thing? Do you think coupe SUVs should exist? Let me know in the comments section below. So we are inside the Arkana. We will start off with the key or the card thing. You've got unlock, lock, illumination, and then boot. And then on the back there, you've got the Renault logo. Now, I did mention in our other Renault reviews that I kind of find this key a bit silly because it's just too bulky to just have in your pocket. But Renault people that commented on our other Renault reviews seem to like it. So good. And there is a little slot for it here as well, which I kind of like. It means you can just get it out of the way if you need to. It's a proximity sensing key as well. So you leave that in your pocket, then you have a push button start over here. Look, just like the Captur, I think this design is actually quite nice. You've got that big portrait display in the center there. This doesn't quite have that floating console that the Captur does, which means you don't get that storage beneath it. But I think this still looks nice. How's the carbon weave here on the dash and the doors as well? Very interesting. Probably not real carbon, but it's cool to see that it's there anyway. Red highlights along the bottom part of the dashboard there as well, and then a little Renault RS logo just here. In terms of your touch points, this is quite firm there and soft on the door. How firm are they? Well, we've got our gyrometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you want to see how this car compares to others that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description below. Build quality, a little bit wonky there in the center. The rest of this feels okay. Let's try our door. That sounds pretty good. Let's talk infotainment. So central to the cabin is this infotainment system. 9.3-inch portrait display. Look, it just looks really nice and high-end, and it looks better than a lot of the other competitors in this segment that go for different variations of this setup, but I think this looks quite nice. In terms of its speed, I have noticed it's a tiny bit laggy at times. It's sort of okay there once you preload things, but if you catch it napping, can just be a tiny bit slow as you sort of move through the menus. But you do get inbuilt satellite navigation. You also have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Both of those are wired. I'll show you what Apple CarPlay looks like first. So that looks pretty good. It's pretty much a full screen integration. They've kept some of the shortcut features up here for the native infotainment system, but that works quite nicely. And this is what Android Auto looks like. So same size there as Apple CarPlay. Nice and snappy as well. Now on the radio front, you have AM, FM and DAB digital radio, and that's all plumbed through a 6-speaker sound system. Sound system's fine, nothing sort of too outrageous, does the job, but it is good that you have that full coverage there in addition to your inbuilt satellite navigation. Now, ahead of the driver, you also have another display. This can be configured in a couple of different variations, nothing too sort of grand, but it is a really nice and sharp screen and it looks great while you're driving. Now, safety tech, you have autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. You've got an auto dimming rear vision mirror, blind spot monitor built into the wing mirror. You've got radar cruise control, a lane keeping assistant and a lane departure warning, rear cross traffic alert, and on the parking front, you have both front and rear parking sensors and a reverse view camera. In addition to that, you also have a semi-autonomous parking mode. I'll show you what that looks like. I've got to start the car, so I'll flick that on, put that into reverse. Oh, it's not very good quality. Yes, I can read what's written there, but yeah, the quality of that is really poor. You do get sonar top and bottom there, along with your side sensors as well to see how that's going. And then all of this stuff moves with the wheel as well, but it's a pretty sort of straightforward setup. Moving on to practicality, and we'll start off with your connectivity. So you've got an auxiliary input down here along with 2 USB-A ports. You've got a 12-volt outlet there too. In terms of storing your phone, you can actually just stick it down here on the wireless phone charging pad, or you can whack it here in the cup holders should you desire. Other storage, what about your coffee cup? So fits into there without any problems. You've got some teeth in there too, and 2 depths as well. So if you do have a bigger coffee, you can go for the deeper slot. Let's see what it's like with our bottle in there. No dramas. Bottle inside the door, and I think we can actually fit our giant bottle inside the door too. Yeah, there you go. Fits in nicely, which is good news. Other storage, sort of not too much down there. This center console here is kind of weird. It's really deep but quite small, but it does move forwards and backwards to give you a little bit more practicality. You've got netting down the side here and a glove box that is very oddly shaped. Now, what about your comfort? So you have single zone automatic climate control, but you do pick up heated and cooled seats for the front row. You've got a heated steering wheel. The seats are electrically adjustable as well for driver and front passenger, so you can go forwards, backwards. The backrest can go forwards, backwards. You can lift the base and also adjust your lumbar. The seats themselves are really interesting. So they're perforated for the cooling, but they also have that sort of suede treatment up the top with decent bolsters too. So yeah, it's not a bad little seat setup there. Steering offers both tilts and reach adjustment, and on the reach test, all of this stuff is easy to reach while you're driving. Now, second row of the Arkana. Despite this sitting on a longer wheelbase than the Captur, there really is not much legroom back here. So I can't actually fit my knees in behind the driver's seat. And yeah, I do have it sort of fairly far back, but yeah, it's kind of a little disappointing. There isn't much sort of room here. Tow room's okay. Headroom is marginal. You do get other creature comforts though, such as nets in the back of the seats. You've got air vents down here, 2 USB-A ports. You've got ISOFIX points on the 2 outboard seats with 3 top tether points. Center armrest with 2 cup holders. So it fits the bottle in, but without teeth, that kind of just moves around a little bit. This can fit inside the door as well if you can get it past your knee. What about our window test? Let's see how this goes. So it's auto up and down. Oh, almost so close. Now, what about your cargo space? So, it's not a power tailgate, it's a little bit disappointing. You have just over 350 litres of cargo space here. So it doesn't look like a huge amount, but you do get storage under the floor here, and it's a fairly generous amount as well. You can get rid of this too if you need to, just to make that a flatter floor should you require. And beneath all of that is a space saver spare tyre. You've then also got a little bit of storage off to the sides here too. Show you what it looks like with our bags in there. So there's one, there is another. Kind of fills up pretty much that entire space. If you do need more room though, you can drop the second row. You've got to reach all the way in and push that out of the way. Once that is dropped though, that opens up just under 1,300 litres of cargo space. So I've just hit the road in the Renault Arkana. So the engine, now this is the same engine you'll find in the Captur. So 1.3 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine, makes 115 kilowatts of power and just over 260 Newton meters of torque. It actually works really well in the Captur because it's a light chassis. It is just a good fun car to throw around. Unfortunately, this has the same gearbox, which is a 7-speed dual clutch, and that means at low speeds, yeah, I just really don't love it. It's, you know, it's just a bit sort of lurchy and not very smooth. So yeah, it is a great shame. They use dual clutch transmissions to help with fuel economy. They're about sort of 8 to 10% more efficient than a torque converter, but they come at the cost of drivability at low speeds. It's better once it picks up, but yeah, once you're sort of moving off from a standing start or on a hill, it's just not going to be your best friend. Renault claims a fuel economy, a combined fuel economy of 6 litres per 100 Ks. We are currently sitting on 7.2. It's actually not too bad. So I have been doing a fair bit of highway driving, some city driving as well, and then did some faster laps around here in the morning. So I'm actually pretty happy with that figure. It is pretty efficient for what is a sort of decent sized small SUV. Now, what does it feel like behind the wheel? So I did mention it's got a dual clutch. So if we bury the foot in, it's obviously not a dual clutch for the sake of being a quick shifting one, because it isn't all that fast shifting. It is a little bit lazy at times there, but once it is sort of in its rev band, it actually picks up nicely, and you can manually shift here with the paddles. And if I flick back through those to third, give it a punch, yeah, look, it's fast enough. It's not going to sort of pull the hair off your head, but it is fast enough to put a bit of a smile on your face when you do finally step on it. Sounds okay as well. It's sort of nothing spectacular, but it's okay. One thing I did notice earlier, the driving position, it's really weird for some reason. I can't really put my finger on it, but I just can't seem to get comfortable here. So yeah. Now, drive modes. We have My Sense, which you can configure, Sport and Eco. I'm gonna pop it into Sport so we can go for a little fang around our track here and see what this is like. So you've got the paddle shifters on the steering wheel. All right, so a little bit of body roll there. Stability control is flashing away because with that body roll comes lift on the inside wheel when you turn in. Yeah, you can definitely feel the extra weight here over the Captur. Captur was really quite fun and dynamic through here, whereas this feels heavier. So when you do lean into the throttle, it's sort of not as interested in picking up and moving. But in saying that, it's actually doing a pretty decent job here of holding on. It's just more when you go to hit the loud pedal that it just is all a little bit delayed. Look, it's actually not terrible. Yeah, that's the thing. It's the chassis itself is good. It's just this engine is more suited towards the Captur in terms of that dynamic ability. Here's our back straight. Let's roll onto that throttle. Yeah, there's just not a lot happening here, so that's okay. Look, it is fine for what it is. It's just not going to set your hair on fire if you go for a bit of a fang. Now let's talk 0 to 100. Renault claims a time of around 9 seconds. So let's give this a shot and we will see how it goes. I'll dial it up a little bit and just stand it up. There is 100 there. So we have 0 to 100 in 9.3 seconds, which is close enough to the claim. And our 80 to 120 time, which simulates your overtaking, is 6.7 seconds. So you can see most of the time is spent in that overtaking range, and that is something to consider. If you do load this up and you go to overtake, it is going to take a little bit of time to get around traffic that's doing highway speeds. Now, time for our reverse test. Let's see how quick she goes in reverse. Here we go. Throttle is flat to the board, 32 kilometers an hour, so nice and casual. Now let's bump it up to 130 for our sine waves. So these are typical of some of the roads you'll find in country parts of Australia, and you might hit them at 130 when overtaking, or if you're in the Northern Territory, that's the speed limit. It's not too bad. The body control is a little loose at the top end, but for the most part, it's actually pretty compliant. The ride in general is actually inoffensive. It sort of just does the job. In and around the city, it's fine, nothing too harsh. Decent amount of sidewall rubber there as well, which means you're not going to be thrown around too often. And what about towing? So obviously you're not going to be towing, a 3.5 ton caravan with this, but it does have a towing capacity of 900 kilos with a braked trailer. Now, I did notice there as the speed picked up a bit on the coarse chip sections of road, there was a lot of tyre noise coming into the cabin. So that is something that we did notice a little bit in the Captur as well, but it seems more noticeable here. So yeah, that is just worth keeping in mind. If you are going to do a long distance drive with the family in the car, it is going to be a little bit noisy. Now, what's your visibility like? So look down the front there, I can't quite see the edges of the bonnet, but you do have the front and rear parking sensors to make that type of thing easier. The wing mirrors are big enough and they have the blind spot monitor built into them. Visibility out the rear is pretty poor. It's a very narrow envelope and it just makes it a little bit tricky to see out of. Turning circle comes in at 11.2 meters, which is not too bad. So Renault Arkana, look, it is a fun little car to drive, but not quite as engaging as the Captur. I think that if you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of space, the Captur is probably the way to go. It's just more enjoyable to drive behind the wheel. This, is bigger, but ultimately doesn't have a huge amount of legroom in the second row. It does come with a bigger boot, but it is compromised slightly just on weight. Outside of that though, this top spec has pretty much all of the bells and whistles. So I was surprised to see stuff like heated and cooled seats, and it picks up the electric seats, which were missing from the Captur. So yeah, let me know in the comments section below, have you bought an Arkana? What's it like to live with? To get used to that gearbox, I'm keen on your feedback. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.